Welcome to this video. In this video we'll talk about variables and identifiers, and they are very important in programming languages because you use them to store data and perform some calculations or arithmetic calculations, which we'll talk about them later. So you hear the word variable a lot, and you use it in mathematics using x, y, z to represent certain data. So variable name, the name used for that variable, we call it identifier in the terminology of programming. So for example, price is identifier of the value price that you used for the item. So those names we use, there are certain condition has to be met to use that name. Now, identifier are needed for different type of information in programming. One is variable. So again, you have something changing. The value keep changing every time. It depends on conditions. So if you use, for example, student ID, it's different from ID from student to student. There's not one number for everyone. It depends on the student. You're using age of people. It's changing. Everyone has a different age. So variables used for changing this. So everything that keep changing, we call it variable. So we need for it an identifier. We need to give it a name. So we can identify that object or variable based on that identifier. The next one is the method. The method is functions. If you used functions before, are methods, but it's a collection of code, number of lines of code put together to perform certain thing. And we will do some methods and functions hopefully later, and you will enjoy it because they simplify the reuse of the code. You created a code, every time you need to do the same thing, you just call that code. You don't need to write it again. We'll come to that one. The next level is class. Again, methods should have a name and the right name. Classes also must have names, and classes are collection of variables and methods. These two together, you put them, you come with something called classes. And classes are collection of methods. And then there is something bigger than that. Collection of classes becomes package, and then comes something called interface that link different classes and create some sort of a template. So all these five, they must have identifier or need to have ID to represent them, or a name to be used to refer to the right one. So if I call price, I know I'm talking about the price, not the age of someone else, because it's identified that type of data and the data we need to use. Example here, again back to our price. When you see float price, so price now is a variable and it has the name or identifier price, and this tells the computer now the price is a float, so give it a space in the memory that fits this the float. Now when you come with this name, when I said price here, I could have came with other name, but if I use price, there's some conditions need to be met, and these are like the rules that we have to follow to name a variable, to come with identifier. What are those rules? The first one, Java is a case sensitive. So if I come with age as a variable, uppercase A is different from age lowercase. These are treated two different variables and they have no relation to each other. And this is why you need to be careful. If you declare something with uppercase, you continue using it uppercase, or vice versa. The second thing, your variable name or identifier can contain letters, digit, and there are two special characters we can use that are the underscore and the dollar sign. This we can use. So this is my age. I can add also number there, my age 1. Okay. By see the underscore here that we used. This is okay. We can use underscore, but we cannot use dash, which minus. Minus cannot be used because minus is used for calculations, so it cannot be used here. And dollar sign here is fine. I can use dollar sign. Okay. The length of that variable, there's no limit for that, but there's an issue with long names. If you make the name too long, it becomes difficult to spell it right, and it will cause you some problems. So use reasonable length that has meaning to your data. It's necessary to use alphabet at the start. It is a must. If you start a variable name with a number, it will not be accepted. It has to start by a text or a letter, alphabet. Okay? So something like student 5 is fine, but 5 student is not fine. You cannot start by a number. You need to start by text. You can start by anything. You need to start by text. We're talking here Java, but there are other languages like PHP. They use dollar sign, for example, at the beginning of the variable. But in Java, you cannot start by a number or anything else. You have to start by a text, alphabet at the beginning. Dollar sign can be used, but we recommend not to use them. So they will confuse you unless you are in the PHP programming language. You will have to use them, but we advise don't use them. White space is not permitted, not allowed. You cannot have white space. White space means a space between your letters. So for example, student space ID. This is not acceptable completely because it doesn't follow the rules that we said. So space is not allowed. So this space you have here is not allowed to have. So you can have student and no space ID is fine, or underscore ID if you insist on that one, but you cannot have a space. Okay. Special characters are not allowed. Again, those special characters, something like plus is not allowed because it's for calculation. Minus, percentage for modules, all these are not allowed. All those special characters are not allowed. You cannot use also true and false as a variable name, or we'll come to that in the next condition. But these special characters are not allowed to be used. Digit at start. This is again related to this example. We cannot start by a number. We have to start by alphabet. And the rest of your variable name can include letters, digit, dollar sign, or underscore. This is fine. You can, but again, no of those special characters. Variable name must not be a keyword or reserved word. Keyword, and there are many of the keyword in the programming. These words they mean something to the language, so you cannot use them for your variable name. For example, int is a data type. Float, double, short, they cannot be used. Long, all those things cannot use. If cannot be used because it's part of the language. For cannot be used, while cannot be used, else, true, and false. All these are reserved, and there are others, you can find them. Those are part of the programming language, like public, static, private. We'll maybe come to them later, but these are reserved for the language, means cannot be used for the variable name. Otherwise, it will confuse the code and it causes a problem.